Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and today we're going to be talking all about Eternal Palace and what specs I personally think I will play on a fight-by-fight basis. I'll also be covering both Azerite traits and talents for each spec that I feel have a chance at being a top performer on a case-by-case basis as well. If you're interested in any of the week auras or add-ons to see here, I'll have a link to my Discord and Twitch where I stream all of our progression in the description where you can find them all. Now, I do want to say that there will most likely be more class tuning the week of Mythic, which could end up throwing off some of these actual strategies as a whole, but as of right now, this is my current plan heading into EP, so let's get right into it. Abyssal Commander Azshara is the first boss you'll encounter in the Eternal Palace, and it's a pretty simple single target encounter. The Radiance have managed differing debuffs that are placed on players randomly and swap over the course of the encounter. Seeing as how there are no adds present here, my choice is going to be our normal single target build of Demonology. For essences, I will most likely start off with running Vision Perfection as my major and Lucid Dreams as the minor. However, focusing Iris is also a solid minor choice here if you're looking for a bit less RNG. You can also make good use of your Demonic Circle here and potentially Gateway if you need to shift quickly with a changing debuff. Aff and Destro are also fine choices here, but I feel Demonology is the best overall, looking at what this fight actually entails. The second boss that you will encounter is Blackwater Behemoth, and he, just like Abyssal Commander, is mostly a single target fight. The raid will need to stagger killing the puffer fish, which are attackable at the start of the encounter, to then receive the bioluminescence buff. This buff makes it so that you are now able to be healed by allies and lasts 1 minute if I remember correctly. The boss will teleport to the other half of the room when he reaches 100 energy, which requires players to then traverse the chasm below. Be sure not to cross with the bioluminescence buff or come close to any jellyfish or you'll be eaten by a shark. Seeing as how this fight is pretty much pure single target, I once again feel that Demonology is honestly the best choice here. I would run the same build as the first boss talent wise, but also running the VOP major / lucid minor build that I mentioned before. Once again, focusing Iris as a minor is not a terrible choice here either. If you are able to keep Agony on the pufferfish here most of the time, then I think Affliction could also be a decent choice for the fight, but I still believe that Demo will be the best. The third boss that your raid will encounter is the Radiance of Azshara boss, and if you're playing in Legion, this boss is very similar to the final boss in Eye of Azshara. It is once again a single target fight in phase 1, however in phase 2 a large add will spawn that is surrounded by a few small adds. On Mythic, 2 large adds will spawn at random places in the room in which the raid must defeat within a few seconds of each other. Once they are defeated, the boss will then return to phase 1 and continue to swap until defeated. Even though there are adds present in phase 2, the boss takes 99% reduced damage until they are defeated. The large adds do live for a little while, but the smaller adds seem to die pretty quickly in PTR raid testing, which once again honestly led me to the conclusion that this is probably going to be a Demonology fight. With the adds being stacked pretty close to one another in phase 2, you're actually able to make pretty quick work of them with the Implosion talent and Demonic Strength as well. I would look to run the same build here as I did on the last 2 fights, while also running the same major / minor combination. I will say, however, that there is a good bit of movement over the course of the fight, so I feel that a single target base build of Affliction could also be a strong choice here overall. Having an Inevitable Demise piece mixed in could also provide a bit of emergency self-healing if you get separated from your raid's healers for whatever reason. For Affliction, I would most likely look to run an Essence build consisting of Crucible of Flame as your major, and then World Bane Resonance as your minor if you have a few other raid members also running World Bane. Bane is the 4th boss in Eternal Palace, and this fight is certainly an interesting one. She begins the fight with a shield that absorbs damage equal to 40% of her health pool. Once it's broken, she takes damage for roughly a minute and 10 seconds before reapplying said shield at a larger percentage. Bane is once again mostly a single target fight, with there only being a few bubbles that will periodically trap raid members, which need to be burst down. I could not find the actual duration between each briny bubble cast, but I do know that from earlier PTR testing, they did not have much health. It seemed to be around 700k, which makes this a pretty interesting spot to be in. Rolling Havoc is arguably Destruction's strongest Azerite trait, and while she does spawn the bubbles in both phase 1 and 2, I'm not sure if there will be enough time to get full value out of a Havoc window or to proc Flashpoint for any bubble that spawns. You also have to take into consideration here when comparing Demo to Destro that Demo has its main cooldown being Demonic Tyrant on a 1.5 CD, while Destro has about 2 minutes and 20 seconds on its main CD if you're running the Vision of Perfection / Crashing Chaos CD reduction build. Depending on how quickly you push Ashbane, you might not necessarily have your Infernal as Destro for every phase 2 here. Demonology, on the other hand, has its main cooldown a full 45 seconds earlier, and with the Havoc bubbles being taken into consideration, I think this fight is pretty close to call. I'm most likely going to start off as Demonology running the same builds as before, but might end up swapping to Destruction depending on the actual state of Havoc windows and CD timing. If I were to play Destruction here, it would consist of the build we have run for pretty much the entire duration of BFA, with an Essence build of Lucid Dreams Major and most likely a VOP Minor. This is one of those fights that we are going to have to get a feel for to see what really brings the most of the raid on a case-by-case basis, I feel. Orgozoa is the 5th boss in Palace, and most likely my favorite encounter. In Phase 1, Orgozoa will spawn waves of Zoatrid adds that need to be killed pretty quickly. On Mythic, the boss gains the Call of a Tender ability, which summons waves of Zoatrids much more frequently. Phase 2 has the raid run down a large ramp behind the boss to an area below where he will now also summon 2 Naga adds in addition to Zoatrids on Heroic and higher. The raid needs to control the waves of adds that are spawning frequently while also killing Orgozoa at this point. This is a fight where I feel all 3 specs actually have merit here. A Demonology build consisting of Bilescourge Bombers potentially instead of Demonic Strength while also casting Implosion will provide a great deal of burst damage to the Zoatrid waves. A rolling Havoc based Destruction build will pretty much be able to use Havoc on CD here, especially on Mythic, which will further help push the boss damage due to the large intellect buff it grants, as well as helping burst down the adds quickly. I will say that in early raid testing, however, I actually played Affliction with an ID build that would generate stacks off the frequent Zoatrid spawns and then be able to channel directly into Orgozoa. On Mythic, however, we frequently found ourselves falling behind on Zoatrid spawns, so an adjustment had to be made. If I were going to play Affliction here, it would most likely be an Absolute Corruption based build running a few Inevitable Demise traits. If I were to play Destruction here, I would certainly, in theory, want access to multiple rolling Havoc pieces and run the same talent build as we had before. Demonology can also provide a great deal of consistent add burst damage here, running a Bilescourge Bombers build if necessary, but I would not want focusing Iris as my minor due to frequent target swapping. Seeing as how strong Destruction is currently, I will most likely start off there and see how things look after a few pulls on Mythic, as you simply cannot deny the power of rolling Havoc with Flashpoint, and Destruction looks to be very, very strong currently in Palace. The 6th boss of Eternal Palace is the Queen's Court, and it is a council / cleave based fight that I feel greatly favors Destruction and Affliction. The 2 bosses do not share a health pool and must die within a few seconds of each other, or they will heal to full after 15 or so seconds. In early raid testing, I pulled this fight as Affliction with multiple Inevitable Demise pieces, and found that approach to be very strong. You're able to generate multiple ID stacks really quickly off the sparks that spawn centrally, and which need to be killed in a staggered fashion. With this being a permanent 2-target encounter, it also provides for pretty much permanent Havoc windows and rolling Havoc abuse as Destruction. Even though I did most of my testing as Affliction, I believe I'm going to start off as Destruction here, running the generic Destro talent build. You certainly are going to want to have access to multiple rolling Havoc pieces, as the ability is mostly used on CD and provides a massive intellect bonus. I would run the typical Lucid Major / VOP Minor build here as well as far as essences go. If I did decide to swap over to Affliction for some reason, then I would start off running an Absolute Corruption mid with hopefully at least 2 Inevitable Demise Azerite pieces. With there being 2 permanent targets and frequent prolonged ad spawns, it makes it an awesome ID fight in general. I would still look most likely to a Crucible and Flames major build / World Bain minor build here as well. I do feel that Destruction will most likely just end up being the best choice here in a very similar fashion to Jade Fire Masters from BOD, simply due to the fact that you pretty much have an opportunity for a Havoc window every time it's off cooldown. Zakul is the penultimate boss in Eternal Palace, and he really is something, I guess. Zakul will pull players through multiple realms of fear within the first 30 or so % of his health, gaining new abilities while having the raid deal with different / alternating mechanics. He certainly appears to be an awesome encounter both when it comes to mechanics as well as visually. Personally, I feel that you will either end up playing Destruction or Affliction here, as there are multiple adds present throughout the different realms in which you're pulled to. One thing to keep in mind here, however, is that there is a lot of movement present and a pretty good bit of personal and raid-wide damage that will be going out here as well. Now there's no denying the power of current Destruction 8.2 heading into Eternal Palace. However, I'm personally leaning towards starting off here as Affliction due to the frequent movement the fight demands, as well as having a good bit of self-healing in Inevitable Demise. I would look to start off running Affliction single target build with Siphon Life, and have most likely at least one Inevitable Demise Azerite trait mixed in somewhere. The Crucible Major / World Bain Minor build is what I would look to run at this point as well if other raid members are running World Bain and you don't have access to Condensed Life Force as of yet. If I were to play Destruction here, I would run the normal Destro Talent build, but look to most likely supplement my gear set with multiple Rolling Havoc pieces as well. While I was not able to test Zakul much past the first 2 stages or so on PTR, there will certainly be multiple opportunities for some big Havoc cleave here. The Elusive Major / VOP Minor build is once again what I'm most likely going to look towards running here for Destruction. I do feel that with all the movement and healing being taken into account, that the fight favors Affliction a bit more than Destruction, but maybe Destruction in its current form is just too strong not to play here. And as most of us already know by now, Queen Azshara is the final boss of the Eternal Palace. Much like Zakul, this is a fight that I feel favors both Destruction and Affliction more than it does Demonology. Phase 1 is a consistent cleave phase with there being 2 main targets and adds that spawn as well. Azshara herself becomes active in Phase 2 and will continue to spawn adds here and in a later Phase 3 as well. I, like Zakul, was not able to see far past Phase 2 for Azshara when it came to raid testing, but I'm most likely going to start off playing Affliction here and see if the fight warrants playing Destruction over AF. The interesting thing here is looking through the dungeon journal, there does not appear to be any adds present in Phase 4. Now, depending on the frequency of adds in the first 3 phases, I could see this being a Rolling Havoc Destruction fight, but with there not being any from what I can see in the final phase, I'm leaning towards playing AF here. This could easily change due to how the fight actually functions and such as a whole, but having the ability to generate resources off the adds in Phase 1 through 3, and then have the single target damage and self-healing that AF brings in Phase 4, seems too valuable to me to lose out on. Running one Inevitable Demise trait here also gains you a lot of value in the first few phases while providing self-healing where Destruction really can't. Destro might be able to gain a lot of value from rolling Havoc early on, but if there truly are no adds in Phase 4 and no hidden mythic phase containing adds, then it's essentially a dead trait later on. With that being said, I do still feel that Destruction is a strong choice here, even with Phase 4 being taken into account, just due to how strong the spec actually is currently running the Lucid / VOP Essence combo at this point. You just might not actually run any rolling Havoc pieces here. As far as Affliction goes, I'm probably going to start off running our single target build with Siphon Life, and see how the fight progresses and how adds are handled as a whole. The fight really does look like it will be a great one, and Eternal Palace as a whole truly does look like an amazing raid. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope this gave you all a better look at my plans heading into Eternal Palace as a Warlock. Don't forget that there is still time for tuning before Heroic Week opens, and there will most likely be some tuning the week of Mythic as well. As mentioned, I will place a link in the description to my Twitch where I stream all of our Mythic progression if you're interested in acquiring any add-ons or week auras you've seen here. If you guys want to see more WoW content and help support the channel, smash those like, share, and subscribe buttons as your support really helps. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below and I'll be sure to get back to you. Thanks guys, and I'll see you all on stream. Peace.